Hello world, we're back at it again. Podlayer team. Tonight it's going to be myself, Naiji Coach, and Naiji Glenn, and we're going to be catching him up on some beats that he missed from last time. It is the other, which is part of the themed section of higher theory. So this is more speculative areas, but they are working off of the firmest and best data there is about the human condition currently. Okay, so Glenn, let's get to it.
All right.
First up, what is the other? What rituals are associated with the other? How does it relate to the other major spirit forms in terms of energy and authority?
All right. So the other is the unconscious spirit form everyone has that acts as the personified muse of a person's unconscious genius, that which complements and completes the chosen one. Rituals associated with the other include longing, challenge, passion, and union. Everyone's other is unique, but it is always heavily influenced by the highly inspirational unconscious momentum powers. The other is much more energetically powerful than the Mazut apparatus or Daryu, but it is still beholden to the righteous authority of the apparatus, as the other is meant to bring fulfillment and union of opposites when the apparatus is properly enacted its role as the chosen one. I think we covered this a little bit before, but when it comes to the word "but," usually I think there's like a comma before it, but I think sometimes Ben mentioned
yes,
that.
I added that actually. It's funny you mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I actually was just reading it before you came on. Good eye. So great minds think alike.
Yeah, but I think Ben mentioned that sometimes it's not always necessary. But I don't know. I kind of like it, but it's
I do too.
Yeah. It kind of adds that pause, which
it does. It helps clarify a bit the delivery.
Right. The other is not more powerful than the Fumasta, right?
No, yeah, the Fumasta is higher up and it has access to even larger amounts of deeper unconscious material.
I see. So normally the other is thought of as the unconscious spirit form, but the Fumasta is even more unconscious.
Yeah.
Still. Okay.
Yeah, because the Fumasta is, what you're developing into, which is going to have its counterpart in the other, but actually it includes the other and the other's champion together. So yeah, it's above it.
Right. The other's champion, meaning
basically, if you look at it this way, the Fumasta is actually the globe that the other's champion, what the chosen one grows to be, and the other combined to be. The Fumasta is higher because basically, I guess in really short technical terms, you could say that the unconscious genius is the other. The conscious genius is, you the chosen one, but then the Fumasta is actually the combination. It's the whole thing.
Right.
It's complete mastery of the story.
Okay, so then it so it's basically the union part of it, right? It's working off of that,
exactly.
As we discussed in the last hangout. So that's what makes it more powerful. So when you're talking about the other, you're talking literally about like just the unconscious part of it, essentially, right?
Yeah, the unconscious part of it, and also particularly the powers that you don't use consciously. Whereas the Fumasta includes all of that, but also everything you have consciously, plus deeper unconscious material that is not privy to, is not accessed by the other or the conscious genius, either one.
Independently, right? It's not capable of being accessed independently. It's only when you're able to combine unconscious and conscious, are you able to access those parts? Is what you're saying.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I see. That's good. I like that. It makes sense too, right? I mean, yeah, the sum of the parts, is more than just the individual parts themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So you have your half, the conscious, the unconscious genius half, and then you're right, the greater, the holistic greater.
Right. That's a new it completely changes the game essentially, right? Yeah. Yeah, the left hand and the right hand, they can only do so much independently, but then when you combine them together, as like as a kind of example, you're able to do so much more.
This might be a good thing to kind of hold on to, is that you say, Glenn, you're doing the Naiji portion.
Right. I understand. I think.
Yeah. But real quick, this might help. It makes sense. You're doing the Naiji portion. Your unconscious genius is doing the Nijai portion.
Right.
Your Fumasta does the Najez.
Okay.
It's a Naiji because it's coming from you, but at that point, it's actually not thinking like a Naiji. It's thinking like Najez. It has full access to everything of the whole story.
I see. You're not. It's less. You're not looking at it in a component kind of format.
Exactly.
Right? You're looking at
you still know you're an IG, but you're now no longer thinking with that kind of mind. You're thinking with an Najez mind.
I see. Okay, that's cool. I like that. That was good. A little explanation there.
Sure thing.
All right. So just a little bit more here.
I'll take your time.
All right. So the other is the unconscious genius that exists within the overall pantheon of spirit forms that reside within one's entire, I guess you could say, their entire pantheon of spirit forms. It's the unconscious part of it. So essentially, it makes up the sort of the muse that one kind of has within their mind, as within their psyche. It usually is represented as a muse within the psyche, and it is mainly the unconscious part of it. It is the unconscious part of it. So
this helps you with it. The clarity is there are different kinds of unconscious, and so this is nice. I'm going to do some fine nuance here. You have far and foreign. Those are two things that sort of make it unconscious. It's foreign, that's why it's unconscious to you, or it's far. Now, some things have both to certain degrees. So the other is mainly foreign. It is the foreign part of yourself, the four powers you don't use consciously. So it's foreign. Naturally, as a part of being foreign, it's fairly far. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because if it was near, then it would not be as foreign, right?
Right. Because to get near in big kind of 4951 terms, you need to go to the conscious, and that's the Daryu. The Daryu is closer to you, and therefore it's in the subconscious, and thus it's more like you. Your Daryu is kind of like, a rough version of you in a lot of ways. It's not actually foreign, right? It's rough, it's hard. I like to not think about it, but it's not foreign. When your other comes to you, one of the key elements that makes it unique is that it feels as if you're getting these energies, these ideas, these abilities that you normally, they're not part of your thinking of your story. The way you do things, it doesn't come there natively. Does that make sense?
Right, yeah, so it's foreign in that respect.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, the Fumasta has all your non-foreign, then your darker, rougher stuff, Daryu, it knows that. And this is key because your other actually lives in a different realm than your Daryu does. Now, they can talk, and they do sometimes, and you're part of that exchange if you're doing it right, but they actually occupy kind of different psychic landscapes. So for your other actually considers you, your mazuts that come from you, Your Daryu, which is basically a harder subconscious version of you or mode of you, that's all foreign to your other. So
the conscious powers and the Daryu is foreign to the other.
Right, because the Daryu Daryu hangs out for a lot in your modulation, your conscious modulation. So therefore, it is like modulation powers are. It's sort of semi-conscious to subconscious, because you can consciously access it, but it gets murkier. That murky area is where your Daryu hangs out, but that's still conscious. Or close to it. So to your, it's still within Nijez. Your Daryu, I mean, it's still Naiji. Your Daryu thinks in terms of, I'm supposed to train a Naiji chosen one. Your Daryu is oriented on doing that.
Right.
It's aware that there's an other that it needs to prepare you for, but that's going to be going to a foreign land.
Right.
So your other is the four powers you don't use, and then there's you, your Mazut, and your Daryu. All three of those use your conscious powers mainly. Does that make sense?
You, your Mazut, and your Daryu. Yeah.
Yes. Your other uses the four you don't. So there's a foreign aspect. Does that make sense? So over here you got like Mazut, you got the Daryu, and then you have the other.
Right.
The Fumasta is up here. And the Fumasta actually has all of your familiar, Mazut,
it encompasses all of it.
All of it, including being far. It's just further into the unconscious than the other or any of the other spirit forms, Daryu, you, and the Mazut.
So it encompasses all of the Mazut, the Daryu, the apparatus, as well as the other, and then all of the other stuff that's kind of like.
And actually, while we're at it, it also has, it is representing directly, the Fumasta directly represents for the shiny baby. So that's the kind of wisdom or space the Fumasta occupies. It's the direct representative of the shiny baby, and it is aware from a higher level perspective of what the other is about, what the Daryu is about, what you're about, and your Mazuts.
So it's kind of like a zoomed out kind of perspective on all of those things and what they're trying to do. It's sort of
it's zoomed back. Yeah. It's zoomed. That's the way of putting it. It's zoomed to where it is looking with the Nijez story. Right. And this is key. Your Fumasta is looking with a Nijez perspective that is beyond even your other.
Your Fumasta is looking at.
Because your other does still think in duality. Your other is a Nijai. And your other thinks like a Nijai. And that's why we're cool and awesome to them as the counterpoint. The Fumasta actually has Nijez, the complete Nijez understanding and abilities.
Right. Okay. So the other even by itself doesn't actually think in terms of like the way the Fumasta does.
No, because for example, a common theme I'm sure you're aware when your other comes to you is they will request your services as the Naiji chosen one. You have special powers that your other requires. So there is with the other, although it's very powerful, it's foreign because different powers, but it's also powerful because it's deeper into the unconscious. But it needs the chosen one to bring the other four. The Fumasta has all 8.
Right.
Does that make sense? Even the other actually is in a position of requiring the chosen one to bring the other 4 powers. Your unconscious genius doesn't have those. You have to dance with your muse to bring your half of it. But there's a period where those energies come together on our one, and in that space, that is where the Fumasta comes from, representing directly for the shiny baby. For example, your other also touches and overlaps, headspace and spirit space with the shiny baby. But your other must, which is where you come in, needs the Fumasta to do that. Your other cannot directly go to the shiny baby, cannot become one, which your other wants, with the entirety of the Nijez story. You have to actually do special rituals to get the Fumasta form to come. And for that, the chosen one, you'll have to bring half, your other brings the other half, bam, Fumata comes in, does the ritual to allow merging.
Right. Okay. So.
This is good. Like I enjoy talking about spiritual stuff a lot.
Right. Yeah. And there's always questions and stuff, and I'm always confused about how things work.
Questioning is good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then like too many questions can sort of take away from the time and stuff. So
agreed. So yeah. I want to be as cool with it as you are, but yeah. we have time. I think we should be able to get it. So you pretty much already had it. You were delivering the beat, and then you got confused halfway through. So I think if you can just go back to that space you were before. Do you remember the correction?
Yeah, but then I'm realizing now I forgot to get the four things, the four spirit form rituals. So I'm just trying to recite those and get them in my head. So. Okay, I think I kind of have it.
Cool.
All right. So the other is basically the spirit form that basically it makes up the unconscious part of the psyche, and it acts as a sort of muse for the apparatus and the chosen one, and is meant to sort of complete the chosen one and basically make it so that it's a full story. That's essentially the goal. The four rituals that are associated with the other include the longing, the challenge, passion, and then union rituals. It relates to the other major spirit forms in the sense that it's more energetically powerful than the Mazut and the Daryu, but it's not as powerful as the Fumasta, and even when it comes to the apparatus, it's not as powerful as the apparatus because it's not meant to. It is technically it has to be when it's shepherded in correctly with the apparatus. The apparatus is, I guess, the variable, right? It depends on the apparatus.
There's two elements basically you have to understand. There's power and there's authority.
Yeah. Okay. So it's more powerful than the apparatus, but it does not energetically have more of an authority than the apparatus because it's not meant to sort of like take the reins from the apparatus. The apparatus is always going to have the, righteous quality of being in control of the entire psyche and what the chosen one chooses to do and chooses not to do and stuff. But energetically, the apparatus is powerful in that way, but or has that authority. But the other, when it's tapped into as a resource, it gives a lot of energy to the apparatus, but it's meant to sort of like help the apparatus and guide the apparatus in evolving and reaching a better, higher state. So yeah, I think that covers it. Does it?
Oh, yep. Next up, the rituals. What is the ritual of longing? What wisdom does it provide? What energy does it provide?
All right, so the ritual of longing is the portal ritual for the other spirit form, as the apparatus hears the inspirational call to expand its horizons to include one's full heroic story. This gives the wisdom that comes from the awareness that one needs to be something greater than oneself. This gives the energy in the form of a hungry drive to find true sustenance for the soul that can propel one forward and upward to where their higher spirits reside. And I'm guessing you changed that to forward and upward? Propel one forwards and upwards?
You're talking about the
last sentence. The last sentence.
Forwards and upwards has been made plural.
Okay, so we want it to be plural.
Yeah.
Okay, this gives energy in the form of a hungry drive.
I guess forward. Propel one forward and upward. Yeah, that works.
Okay. All right. So it's what is it The ritual of longing, and then wisdom, and then energy, just like the rest of them. Okay. All right, so the ritual of longing is the portal ritual for the other spirit form, which essentially comes from the fact that the apparatus feels a desire to want to be more than currently what it is, and expand its horizons to include more of its full heroic story, or to achieve its full heroic story. This provides the wisdom that one is meant to be bigger than, I guess, how just their conscious powers, and realize their full potential in a way that is beyond just their conscious powers. And this also provides energy in wanting to accomplish that goal. And I guess you could say, like, I think that kind of hits it, but I feel like there's more. It provides the energy for the person, for the apparatus, to want to go that route. And
basically, you come. The wording was like true sustenance, but you basically have captured the idea. Go into life and excuse me, find what will feed your story. You and your other together can discuss and find out what your story needs in the world. It's just running around doing stuff. You'll be doing things that feed your Najed story.
Mm-hmm. All right. So does that count, I guess, then?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
What is the ritual of challenge? What wisdom does it provide? What energy does it provide?
The ritual of challenge is the Yang ritual for the, it's the Yang ritual. All right. So for the other spirit form, as the apparatus proactively takes charge of moving their heroic story towards elevated communing with their unconscious genius, their muse deity. This gives the wisdom that the other challenges one to rise to their full heroic potential because of the profound love and faith that the other has in the apparatus to act as the chosen one. This gives energy in the form of confidence that one's higher spirits will never be disappointed if one rises to the challenge of enacting their peak pathway and creating greater good with every fiber of their being, come what may. Okay, yeah, I got you. Okay. For a second, I thought the other becomes the chosen one. Like, I thought, like, that's what it said there, but no. Has in the apparatus to act as the chosen one, yeah. So the other basically, it believes in the apparatus, that it will
Believes
be
in,
rise
and
to
it believes in, and it is very it loves, basically.
right, yeah. So yeah, believes is like the faith part, and then the love part is sort of like it wants the best for it, kind of like it wants to help it and make it better. Yeah. I guess in a way, all the spirit forms, they kind of love the apparatus, right? They
But it did
in their own
not
way, in their own
way.
view, like
The Nijai tends, or excuse me, the other for who whatever design is, tends to have a lover kind of quality to it. Even when it's an inanimate object, the feelings that it gives, that inspirational energy.
right, that we normally tend to associate with like romantic kind of love kind of thing, right? Most humans, they kind of see it that
Right.
way. I see what you're saying.
But you are right, that basic setup is how they all work, but the flavor of the other gives it that quality. It's unique.
Yeah, I mean, they all love the apparatus, but they all do so in a different way, right? Like the Fumasa loves the apparatus in that it will kind of command it and give it sort of like this feeling of like you could do it, kind of like, I don't know, like like a sense of power and authority that's unlike anything. The
Well,
Daryu
it's kind of like a father figure or a parent
sure.
figure, whereas the Daryu is more like a brother.
Oh yeah, I gotcha. I never had a brother, but I think yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and then the Mazut is kind of like
Your cousins, you know what I mean? Various cousin forms of yourself, and then your other that can occupy different things. It can be that's where it's unique. The other actually has elements that are like a daughter, are like a sister, are like a mother, and like a lover. Or obviously we're talking as Naiji male here, you know what I mean? But if this was someone else, their story would be whatever is, properly representative on their side.
Right. And not just Naiji male, but Naiji hetero.
Right, exactly.
Him, her, part of that storyline. But obviously, yeah, it's different for everybody, depending on what their, what storyline that they personally fall into.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, and I think the other makes a lot of sense for that last sentence too, as far as energy goes. As long as you show effort in wanting to accomplish the good, correct thing that needs to be done, even if you come up short a little bit, your other will still be very like, like they'll still be very what's the word?
Proud of you.
Appreciative, right? Yeah. Of the fact that you even though you kind of stumbled and you fell and it wasn't perfect, that you went out of your way to do that. So yeah, that's a recurring theme when it comes to the other as well, right?
Yep, true.
It means taking on the responsibility, though. Yeah.
Rising to the challenge.
Otherwise, if you don't, then you get the then you get what do you call it? You get that sort of treatment, I guess, from your other, like, how do like they just kind of like
they care about how you exist, how you spend your life effort, your life force. And then what happens. You can't control the world. Your other understands that, but you can take ownership of trying to be the best person you can and influence the story as best you can in a better direction forward and upward. And if you're doing that, then as far as your other is concerned, you get an A+. And then what happens in the world, that's just how things happen. But you did what you're supposed to be doing, like, the awesome person that your other knew that you were built to be.
Right. Okay, so the ritual of challenge is the Yang ritual for the other spirit form, and it is it's basically the apparatus is trying to commune with the other and trying to basically reach the other in order to become one with it. But there's obviously going to be certain kinds of challenges that need to be accepted in order for it to do that properly. So this kind of gets into the next beat here, which is the other spirit form, the challenge ritual. It gives wisdom in that the other is going to naturally be constantly challenging the apparatus to constantly rise up to meet the other, and that's just a part of the process.
Meet and also to impress, because the longing ritual has a lot of the reaching element. With the challenge, you have often arrived and are in contact with the other, but the other is saying, okay, but my knee, for us say, my knee wants your knife to do this, my Jai wants this, my Z wants this, my Vi wants this. So these are demands, heroic demands being placed. And so you want to do them because you have technically reached him, but you have not gotten approval. You've reached your other, but you have not gotten approval. The challenge is to get that approval.
Right, that makes sense. So yeah, to meet and then also satisfy the calling that the other has for the apparatus, basically to, as you said, I forget the words that you use exactly, but to impress the other. So yeah, naturally that it gives wisdom in that that's going to be the process, and the apparatus, the other will do these challenges to the apparatus, or give these challenges to the apparatus, knowing that the apparatus is going to be able to rise up to these challenges, and also there's a love and there's a faith that comes along with that as well. So yeah, the energy that it provides is that as the apparatus rises to these occasions, even if it kind of like comes up a little bit short every now and then, the fact that it did so is pleasing to the higher spirits and to the other, because the apparatus decided, apparatus acknowledge the other and work towards trying to impress it, and that's really what all that matters, I guess, to the other to a certain degree, because you're not going to be perfect, but as long as you try to do the right thing, the greater good, come what may, then it doesn't matter because you're working towards that goal. But obviously you want to be, you want to get the mark as well. So yeah.
But there's two things very important to kind of separate them. There is in your existence, there is what you can control, you have direct influence over, and then there is what you do not. And so this is kind of the main point, it understands that you cannot control things you can't control.
Mm-hmm.
But then when it comes to you trying to be the best you can be, that you can do fully. And that's the beautiful part about it is that getting the approval of your other, what happens in the world does not get to say how well you're doing. Does that make sense? So your other actually may want you to make a cool temple, but really what your other wants is for you to be the kind of person who knows that needs to be and then exerts your life force to do it. And then eventually it'll come to be. So 1, 2, 3. But if you start heading in the right direction and keep going that way as you should, then you've already won. As long as you keep doing that, every moment you're doing that, you're winning as far as your other is concerned. It's a moment-to-moment thing of you being as you should be. And then you shine. And then that shine has whatever influence it has at that moment in time out in the world.
Yeah. So it's more than just like having the means, right? But it is kind of related to having the means of being able to do something and accomplish something that's within your power.
Right. It's basically about you exerting yourself, training yourself, bonus stacking yourself, orienting yourself in order to get things done the way your other would like them to be. But as far as your other's approval of you, now your other may get sad if you guys can't change the world as much as you would like. Sure, there's going to be those as well. But you and your other will be sad together and you'll have a good cry and then you'll move on. But as long as you were actually doing right effort, then your other wouldn't want to be anywhere else. You're the coolest person doing the coolest stuff, and that's what they want to be doing. They will be hanging out with you doing that.
Right, I got you.
Alrighty, next up is the ritual of passion. What is the ritual of passion? What wisdom does it provide? What energy does it provide?
Right, so the ritual of passion, hold on just one second, is the yin ritual for the other spirit form, as the apparatus reactively gives over control of the heroic storyline so that the apparatus and the other can let the natural law of their innate inspirational intimacy take them from a pleasurable and provocative ride to higher ground. Take them for a pleasurable and provocative ride to higher ground. This gives the wisdom of being aware of what true ecstasy feels like, so one can aspire to it again and again. This gives energy in the form of a healthy, heroic, and inspiring reward incentive for properly enacting one's role as the chosen one. Cool. You're laughing. Or you're smiling there.
I was just thinking that basically all the most of the kind of drugs that are out there, they work on getting people to release dopamine. But if you actually spirit form correctly, your body already comes with dopamine. Those things actually just help you release it. But actually, you already have it, and you already have a release system. It's called your other, and in general, and then very particularly the passion ritual. So if you go up and you do the challenging right, and that gives you cool access to passion rides, yeah, you're going to get all the dopamine you need.
Yeah. It reminds me of drugs and stuff, and like sugar and all that sort of stuff. Like people, they get hooked on like that feeling, that rush, but the body kind of like adapts to it, and then you just need a bigger hit and a bigger hit.
And really, it's because that's missing.
Yeah,
because you're trying to fill this void, and because there's this rush you want to be having. It exists. It's called peaking in general, and then there's a very the ritual passion. all the rituals give you a rush. We talked this last time. We weren't here, maybe, but anyway, each one gives a rush. There's a ritual rush, and the one of passion is one I think a lot of people wish they had more of, but because they're not enacting their peak pathway correctly, they may get paychecks, they may get things like that, they may get sex, they may get drugs, rock and roll, whatever, but they're not actually getting peaking and an inspirational rush that comes with the other.
Yeah, a sense of like fulfillment, like their life means something more than just, you know, the sort of like the.
It comes down to like the existential angst of this.
Meaning, right? There's like a meaning that comes to it. Like,
and there's a question, which is, am I doing it? Am I doing it? Am I doing it right? When your other's with you, you have the feeling that nothing else can give you like it, that yes, you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. You are spending your life moments as you should, and you feel okay. Because otherwise, you're just always thinking about, I'm going to die, and what have I done? You know what I mean? What does it all mean? That goes away, and you just are feeling a sense of contentment that you are in fact doing it.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. That's really important too. You know, you need to be able to feel as though, you know, you're doing it. You're living your life properly. Like, it's a fear.
Otherwise,
you don't want to feel like on your deathbed, like, did I live a life that was worth living? You know, could I have done better? Like, yeah, your other, I guess.
And whenever you don't have that, what's going on is you get becalmed. And being becalmed, as you may know, makes people go crazy, because being becalmed is very much like prison. Prison is basically your life has become becalmed in a way. It can be violent and scary and dangerous, but basically it's stuck. Thoughts about, oh, I'll do this with my life, I'll do this, you know what I mean? Those, you can't have those thoughts anymore because you're in prison, for example. In the case of being becalmed at sea, same thing. You can't really do anything because you're not moving. So your peak pathway, well, if it feels like it's not moving, there's like this incredible like angst / boredom. And people, I think, you know, eat bad things, do bad things to kind of like kill the time. When people feel that they're just stuck, right? If you're stuck at a school or stuck at a camp or stuck at a house, stuck on a ship, stuck in a prison, and you basically can't really do what you want to do. In this case, your peak pathway. Your peak pathway wants to do something, but you can't. People find usually harmful things to kill their time with, because they can't, it hurts so much to not be able to do what they want to do. It's obvious in prison, right? You can't walk around, you can't talk, you can't do like you would out in the streets. But that's a metaphor really for peaking. In life, most people do jobs, most people actually have relationships, most people do activities, accept cultural standards. That means their peak pathway is getting suffocated, or at least is becalmed, stuck on idle. Now, people are, you know, stuck on idle, they tend to actually do things to alleviate the angst / boredom.
Yeah, there's so much power that you get just from acknowledging the fact that you're not happy with your circumstances. And that in and of itself can sort of like take you away from that sort of sleep spell of like being addicted to certain kinds of rituals and stuff that are unhealthy. And, you know, like just being like, I'm a part of this ritual, but I'm detached enough to be and acknowledge the fact that this is not actually satisfying me on a deep level. So it begins with that, I guess, and then it goes on from there to actually then you replacing that with something more healthy, something more better.
True.
Yeah. Hmm. I'm a little bit confused on the first sentence there where it says the apparatus reactively gives over control of the heroic storyline so that the apparatus and the other can let the natural law of their innate inspirational intimacy take them a pleasurable and provocative ride to higher ground. So
Basically,
as the apparatus, you have to sort of like give over the
right.
reins. Okay.
You're going to meet your other, and then you have interaction. Now, with a challenge, you can sort of proactively be the chosen one where you get the challenges and you're going to try to, achieve them, overcome them. Does that make sense? With the passion,
yeah.
with the passion ritual, you can't directly control it that much. You have to allow it to be what it's going to be, kind of like surfing a wave.
Okay.
So it's going to be, from when your other comes to you, you get some things that you're like, oh, I feel I'm being challenged. And then you can kind of use your Nai-Genius to sort of like try to answer the questions or bring your conduct to bear. But then there's other things that you kind of just have to let your other take you for that ride. And
is this similar to sort of like you feel an urge to want to laugh or smile?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Good analogy, actually.
And so sometimes you might hold back because you're like, I don't want to smile or laugh, or I don't want to cry, or I don't want to do this or that. But you kind of
that's an excellent analogy.
Right. Okay.
But if you don't let them happen, then the release that comes with that, and the rush, and the relief, all those things can't happen unless you sneeze, laugh, cry, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of a lot of how people sometimes they'll hold back their sneeze. Have you seen this, Coach? Like they'll be like they're about to sneeze, but then they don't allow it to be like achoo. They kind of like hold it in, like do this thing. It's kind of funny, but it's kind of like I've seen that quite a bit. It kind of reminds me of that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about that, by the way? Do you think that's like a good way to handle sneezing?
I think there's there's a combination of what's going on in the scenario. In which case, I think it is good that a human can stifle a sneeze, and that there are moments where you may want to do that. But in general, to make it to where you don't do it, I always think that's bad. Anytime a human actually decides they're just going to really try to curtail a natural part about how you are, that's probably going to run into some problems.
Yeah, because it's kind of like you're trying to control something that is meant to not be
when it
Always
comes to those kind
control.
of things, like as far as like what you need to expel through your nose, your autonomic systems, they know better than you. So I don't really think you should tell your body when it should sneeze or how it should sneeze. So also on the other hand, you don't just go around peeing everywhere. So right, I understand that you have urges and then you can curtail them for a period of time so you can go someplace more appropriate. So I think there's two sides to it, but anytime you do one, it's wrong. I just pee or sneeze or laugh whenever I want. Sometimes you shouldn't laugh. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's not cool, even though you may be kind of giggling because you're like, okay, there is like an absurd little pattern that just developed here at this funeral. But if I laugh right now, it's going to crush these people's spirits. So I will stifle my laugh and then I will, release it later or another time. But on the other hand, there are people, you're right, they don't like their autonomic functions to have sway on them. They don't like to sneeze. They don't like to laugh. They don't like to cry. They don't like these uncontrolled kind of responses. But your body has them, and so does your psyche, and you need to let them happen. Obviously, there's the angle of being responsible about trying to find the right place and time. But clearly, your body and your spirit says these passions or these sort of autonomic kind of responses and experiences, they need to occur. You need to account for them. You need to allow them to happen. You need to ask yourself, why are they happening, not just stopping them. Stopping them is not an answer.
Yeah, it's sort of like suppressing a thought, like don't think about an elephant that's pink, like I just thought of one, and for some reason the pink elephant has a tutu on. Why? And polka dots, and what's going on?
It's like they show you a little cartoon, a little kid saying, my peak pathway wants to do this. And the parent says, well, go and talk to your peak pathway and tell them they need to do this. Tell them to find that inspiring. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm just need a little bit more time here, but I think I'm kind of getting it now. Okay. Right, so the ritual of passion is the yin ritual for the other spirit form, and it's associated with basically the apparatus giving over control of their heroic story to the apparatus, and the other being allowed to sort of like commune with each other and kind of connect with one another and allow the natural law processes to sort of like take hold and kind of do what they kind of need to do. So it's sort of like you need to kind of give yourself over to the natural law situation of the fact that you and your other kind of like coming together, which I know that some people they can sometimes be, you know, romantically inclined to like not acknowledge that they have feelings or something.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of giving themselves over to the experience and the ride and everything.
Yeah, because there's a truth to it.
There's truth to it, yeah. And acknowledging it and then sort of allowing it to do whatever it needs to do in order to take one to higher ground. This gives wisdom in that. This gives wisdom in that one, as the apparatus is going to have these kinds of experiences, trying to connect with their other and kind of giving over to the natural law of the situation. And
I think it's the segues that what comes from it, the feelings that come from it, the sensations, the reward is what you want to keep coming back for. It teaches you what ecstasy is.
right, it teaches you. Why don't I get this?
It's okay.
Yeah, so that it teaches you what the correct reward system is.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gives energy in the form of an incentive to want to. Okay, I'm getting the two mixed up now a little bit, but
No,
yeah.
once you know that awesome ecstasy is there for you, heroic ecstasy,
then there's wisdom of wanting to
you become
aspire.
highly motivated.
Yeah, you want to aspire to achieve it again and again.
Yep.
But you need to sort of give over to the fact that that's the way that it works. That's that process of giving over to it is the way in which one needs to kind of allow that to happen, and then that's the true and correct way in which one is supposed to aspire to.
If you don't, you won't get the passion rush. Each ritual
Yeah.
gets a rush. The passion rush is an awesome rush, but that's the way it works. And so if you want that rush, you have to do it that way. But once you do it, you'll find out that, whoa, that is the bee's knees. And I want to get that again and again.
Yeah, you realize that that's how it works, basically,
Mm-hmm.
and that you want to repeat it as much as possible.
That's
and this gives energy in the form of like an incentive to want to.
I think you basically captured it. So the wisdom is realizing that, oh, this is the passion ride and how it works. And then that gives energy of like, I want to do what I have to do to take that ride again.
Yeah, to feel that reward again, basically,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm trying to emphasize that it's an incentive to want to, go through that experience to achieve that, to feel that reward stimulus in terms of your peak pathway, saying that, oh, this feels good.
And they've never invented anything that can touch it. It's so pure, it's so clean, the rush, and it goes into all the other rituals and just powers them up. There's like no downside. There's been nothing invented yet that actually can top that. It's pretty awesome. All right, last ritual. What is the ritual of union? What wisdom does it provide? What energy does it provide?
All right, so the ritual of union is the apex ritual for the other spirit form, as the apparatus and the other come together in an inspirational union of opposites. This gives the wisdom that comes from having all 8 powers of the psyche communing together. This gives energy in the form of unfettered energetic flow through a person's entire peak pathway and a profound inspirational and aspirational drive to return to this state of productive harmony with one's innate nature, as well as to move forward to non-duality. we mentioned this before, Coach, but that no single state can sort of like be maintained for indefinitely, right?
Right.
So what's a good way of like putting into words the sort of like leaving the non-duality state and back into the sort of state of being duality again, but without putting a sort of like a negative spin on it, because it's not negative at all. It's a part of the process.
No, it's not. Yeah. Well, so basically, when you are the champion for your other, you do what you need to do as a chosen one to get that approval. And that approval ratchets up in stages. And at the apex of that, there is complete union. Then with the Fumasta takes that union and wields it or plays with it, depending on it once. But basically, it actually
does something with it.
It does something with the entire story that's been brought together. And as a part of that, it can take you to merging with a shiny baby. So really, there's two things there. There's merge with shiny baby, which is awesome, but you can't stay in there forever. So you have to become unmerged. And unmerged is not negative. It's just unmerged. So if you stay unmerged for too long in your life, that's bad. But it's also not good to stay just merged with a shiny baby to where you're not coming out and doing your job as a chosen one. So there's that. Then from that unmerging, you're now with the Fumasta. The Fumasta is working from a state of masterful non-duality, but then it's working from the spirit realm. You need to occupy the tangible world out here, so you must actually step away from that into how you're going to engage the world. The first part of that is you'll need to separate out into your chosen one 4 powers and your others 4 powers. That'll prepare you to going out into the world. You can't carry the entirety of your story into the world. It's unwieldy. So there's a greatness, an awesomeness that comes with, going from duality to non-duality, from non-duality, consciousness into merging to where you are one with the all. That's wonderful, but you can't stay there and do the job you were built to do by the all. Natural law, the all, it made you to do something. And so you have to actually come up and down with those gifts, bring gifts in from the world up to your higher spirits, and then from your higher spirits back out into the world. And every stage is important and should be there.
Yeah, because I think if you get sort of like fixated or stuck in any one of the processes, then it sort of like leads to stagnation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
and it makes staying in that ritual the point. But the elevator in its entirety, including the world it touches with and the mergings it goes into, all of it, that's the point. And so at no point should any of the parts of the point start thinking they're the point. The point's not passion. Passion is an important part of the point. The point's peaking. To peak. And to peak, you have to do all the rituals. And if at any point, rage becomes more important, raging more important than peaking. Being scared more important than peaking. Being, in passion, whatever it is, being great, whatever, none of those things trump peaking. Peaking is the point. That must never be that must never be lost sight of.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, sort of like a real world example of it could be like you learn something like a new concept, and then once you've learned it, then you can't just like be like, okay, I've learned it, and just keep reciting the same thing over and over again, and just kind of being like stuck in that mindset. It gets boring, right? Mm-hmm. You have to go to the next thing. You have to go to the next thing and be like, okay, I'm gonna have to go through this entire kind of experience again. New thing.
There's a wisdom that comes from each of the spirit forms and their rituals. And if you, by definition, if you are spending too much time in one ritual, you are automatically neglecting others. So if you are taking on the role of, say, anger, if you are doing that, then there's going to be some other rituals that are suffering. Perhaps you're not scared when you should be. Perhaps you're actually scaring away things that you're longing for and making what you're longing for farther away from you. Things like that. You know what I mean? So any ritual, if it's not done enough, it will cause penalties because it's atrophied. If you overdo it, then there'll be penalties because of saturation.
Right, right. Okay. So the ritual of union is the apex ritual for the other spirit form, as the apparatus and the other combine together in a union of opposites. This gives wisdom in that when the apparatus and the other come together, it gives a kind of wisdom in what it feels like to be able to have to know what it feels like to have all 8 powers working synergistically and harmoniously and productively with one another. It's sort of like, one eye being closed and then the other one being open. Like if you're looking through just your left eye or just through your right eye, you can only get so far. But then when you have both open, then there's certain kinds of powers and abilities that you become aware of that you were not aware of before, like depth perception or something like that. Like you can't have that unless both are working together in a way. Maybe that's too physical of an example, but I think it makes sense.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and then it gives energy in what it feels like to have an unfettered flow between one's conscious and unconscious powers, and the sort of like the way in which they kind of work together. You know what I mean? Like you're not having to sort of like switch gears in this sort of like component like way. It's sort of like the yin and the yang kind of like come together, and they flow seamlessly and without any sort of like hiccups or anything, any sort of like problems with each other.
So there's that smoothness, and then also you can feel it pulling you towards non-duality coming up next with the Fumasta.
And then it also, there's a desire to then want to achieve that sort of state again, that state of non-duality. So once you feel that energetic feeling, then you want to aspire to want to achieve it again, in other ways, and as one continues to peak throughout their entire peak pathway over and over and again, to constantly want to revisit that.
It's different than the rush that comes from passion, but you're right, there's just that unique bliss, joy that comes from having non-duality with your storyline. Nice. All right, anything before we sign off for the night? That's well done.
No, that's good. I think we covered it.
Yep, good stuff. Okay, I'll I'll see you tomorrow for some more voice training.
All right, cool.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you as well.
Good job.
Thank you.